you, Lord, for just this time, Lord. Every time that we have an opportunity to learn from you, Lord, and to study your word, Lord, it's always precious, and we need to take it serious. You call us in your word, Lord. You often say, "Hear who uh, he who has ears, let him hear." And so I pray that every time we would truly listen and pay attention, Lord, give you our undivided attention, that we would come away with whatever it is that you desire us to learn. And so be with us now. Bless our time, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right. You guys got your Bibles open. Proverbs chapter 6.
Mhm.
Give you guys a few seconds to turn there. Hey, how do I do it where I can see like all your faces at one time? How do we do that? I don't even know how to do that.
There's a button at the top. It shows like 9 dots. It says gallery view. I think you should, if you push that one, it should allow you to see everybody's faces.
Yeah, because that's better. I've done Zoom several times on my phone, but this is the first time I did it on the computer. And so I was trying to, that's why it took me a minute or so to set it up, but I don't know why it's not working. Anyways, it's all right. You guys can still see me though, right?
No,
No.
it shows your camera's closed.
Okay, here we go. All right. Well, again, I can't see everyone, but just one at a time is great. If you guys have any questions, again, it's just a small Bible study. It's only 5-6 verses. And so you assigned me Proverbs 6 through 11. And so, the book of Proverbs, although Proverbs is filled with so much wisdom, there's a flow to everything. There's a flow. And last time, as I look back and seen the text that you guys covered, I'm sure you covered verses 1 through 5. Solomon talked about the foolishness in securing someone else's loan. You know what I mean? In vouching for, lending someone else money, because there's a likelihood that that person is going to be unable to pay you back. And so Solomon, that's what he talked about last time. And so with that thought, he continues on again in verse 6, and he talks about the importance of hard work. And the reason he talks about hard work is because, typically people that borrow money are people that don't have a job or people that are lazy themselves. And so now with that thought about a foolish person who's lazy, he continues on that study, talking about a lazy person who needs to work. I mean, and that's really the whole idea. So I kind of titled this, if you want to put a title to it, if you take notes, you can write down the wisdom and hard work is what I called it. The wisdom and hard work. And I broke it up into 2 sections. The first section, really quick, verses 6 through 8, I called it the example of the ant. That's what he does. He gives us an illustration or an example of an ant that we can learn from. And then in verses 9 through 11, a warning for the lazy person. It's a warning that we got to be careful about being lazy and really make sure that we, again, avoid that and get busy working. And so these are kind of the 2 sections if you want to do that. I like breaking things up, know what the theme is in each section because it helps me to keep that in the back of my mind as I study the verses. And so beginning in verse 6, he says, take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. And I'm reading from the ESV, the English Standard. I'm reading from the NLT, the New Living Translation. I typically teach the Bible every week from the ESV, English Standard Version. I like it. It's one of the most modern and up-to-date versions available. But for this study, as I compared it to the New King James, I compared it to the ESV, I thought the NLT would be best. And so that's what I'm reading from in case you're wondering. And he says again, verse 6, take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Solomon, again, is talking to us. He's talking to everyone. He's talking, again, specifically, though, to a lazy man or a lazy woman. And he's instructing them, look at the ants. That's basically what he's saying. Look at the ants and recognize how even an ant is a hard worker. This ant with a tiny brain, right, compared to ours, that's what we would say, is smart enough to understand that they need to work. And so, again, you need to also have this same understanding. Now, one of the things that's important when it comes to talking about work is one of the mistakes that people make often is people think, wait a minute, we have to work because of the curse, because of the judgment that took place in the garden. And the reality is that that's not even true. We need to remember that God has always been working. God created the world through his work. And he instructed man from the very beginning, again, to follow his lead. Again, we read Genesis chapter 1, God worked. He created the world, right, and everything in it in 6 days. In John 5:17, Jesus says, my Father is working and I am working. And so Jesus, again, as our prime example, teaches us of the importance of work. God, if you want to go back to Genesis, you don't have to, but in Genesis 2:15, God commanded Adam to work even before Adam had sinned. It was even before the curse had took place, which teaches us that work is not a bad thing. It's not a result of the curse. It's something that God created um, for man to do. Now, I just finished the book of Ecclesiastes on Wednesday nights. And one of the key lessons from the book of Ecclesiastes, really neat, is that he talks about work. He talks about the importance of work. And Ecclesiastes, if I could sum up what he says about work, he says that he created work for man to keep ourselves busy. And I like that. I think that's wise. I teach people at our church all the time, stay so busy in the things of God that you don't have time to sin. You should write that down. That's a good thing. Stay so busy in the things of God that you don't have time to sin. Well, one of the ways that we stay busy is by doing what God has called us to do, which is work. And so, again, number one, work is a good thing created for us to stay busy. Number two, Solomon tells us in Ecclesiastes to find enjoyment in our labor, right? There's nothing like working hard, right? And I'll use an example. Going out there and mowing your lawn and trimming the bushes and doing all that you do, right? And spend a few hours out there and you work hard and you work up a sweat. And then you come in and you get a glass of iced tea and you look at your lawn and it looks awesome, right? That's a good feeling. You find enjoyment in your work. That's another reason why work is good. And the third reason is that it is through work that we provide for our needs. And that's obvious. Again, we need to work so that, again, we can provide for ourselves. You might remember, again, I'm sure you've heard the verse before, Paul speaking to the church of Thessalonica says in 2 Thessalonians 3:10, if anyone will not work, neither shall they eat. And so again, the importance of working and not mooching, if I can use that word, right? Not just relying on other people to provide for you, right? This is what God desires, again, that we work hard so that we can provide for ourselves. And if you're a husband, again, you help provide for your wife. If you're a father, you provide for your family, so on and so forth. Look at verse 7. He says, though they have no prince, speaking of the ant, or governor or ruler to make them work. He says, look at the ant. The ant is out there working hard. The ant is out there gathering food, even though it doesn't have a boss, it doesn't have a leader, it doesn't have someone telling them they need to work. They are still wise enough, we would say, with their tiny brains to know that they just need to do it. And so they take the initiative without being told, and they work hard to make sure they provide for themselves. Learn from the ant is what Solomon says. Look at verse 8. He says they labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter. This tiny ant with a tiny brain is smart enough to know that the future is coming when it will need food to survive it, to survive upon. And so what does it do? It gets out there, it works hard, it gathers, it stores, it puts food away, as we say today, for a rainy day, because there will be a time when it will rain, when things will happen, when that ant will not be able to get out there and gather and store food like it can when the weather is good, when things are good, which is why the principle here is that we need to work when we can to prepare for when we can't. We need to work when we can to prepare for when we can't. Now, Jesus, again, talks about the importance of work. Of course, this is more geared towards the spiritual, but I think it also applies here. In John 9:4, Jesus said, we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. And again, it's very similar to that idea. We have to work today when the weather is good. because if it's pouring or raining or snowing, we're not going to be able to work. And so we need to do it now. We can't put it off. We can't procrastinate, because if we do, we can find ourselves in trouble. And again, that's my first section, section 1, again, learning from the ant. Okay, learning from the ant, this small animal with a tiny brain that is wise enough, again, to take the initiative and do what it needs to do. The second part I told you is a warning. After he tells us, hey, look at the ant, learn from the ant, he now says, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why you better heed what I'm telling you. Let me tell you why you need to learn from the ant. Verse 9, he says, but you, right? Forget about the ant now. Let's talk about you, lazy bones, you lazy person, right? You lazy man, you lazy woman. He says, how long will you sleep? How long will you sleep? He's asking again, how long are you gonna remain lazy? How long are you gonna waste time sleeping all day? Again, this is essentially what he is saying. How much time are you gonna waste, right? How much time are you gonna waste? How many people, again, if we didn't have to do anything, right, we just sleep the whole day through. I mean, everyone loves sleeping. I enjoy sleeping. But again, we can't sleep when there's work to be done. We can't sleep, again, and put off what we need to do, because there will be consequences. Now, he continues this thought. He asks him again, how long will you sleep? He says, when will you wake up? When are you going to realize that you need to get up? Now, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with sleep, right? We all need sleep. God created sleep so that our bodies can rest and again, provide, the relaxation, that we need. I forgot who it was earlier. I think maybe it was Jerry again that said stress. Hey, one of the good ways to relieve stress is to get a good night's rest, right? Seriously, rest. We've all been stressed out. Everyone's cramped. I live with 3 adult women. How about that? I got my wife and my 2 young daughters that are both in college. And again, but right now they're all online. They're all home. And my wife is working from home. And so everyone's in the same house, and we're all getting in each other's space and getting on each other's nerves and stressing each other out. And it even happens to Christians. So, one of the best things I do is I just kind of sneak into my room so I can rest, so I can relax, so I can decompress. And so, anyways, there's nothing wrong with sleep. Again, sleep is a good thing. Solomon is not telling us not to sleep. He's simply saying that, there is a point when sleep is not going to do you any good. There's a point when after you are well rested, right? What good is it going to be? Now you're just wasting time. Your body doesn't need it anymore. Now you are just making yourself more lazy, because again, your body doesn't need that sleep. And so when are you going to get up? That's what he says. When are you going to understand that? When are you going to realize you're wasting time? Look at verse 10. He says, a little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Now, what I love about this is what Solomon is doing here. It's actually humorous, because he's trying to sound like one of these lazy people. That's what he's doing. He's basically saying this: oh, I need some more rest. I need to rest just for a little while longer. Aren't these things that lazy people say? Lazy people say, let me cross my hands, like as I would cross my hands, and let me take a quick nap. That's what he's talking about. He's using the same words. He's actually mocking them. He says, how long are you going to say that? How long are you going to say you need a little more sleep? How long are you going to say you need a quick nap? How long are you going to say, again, that you need some more rest, because you don't need it? You're just saying that. You are just lazy. And if you keep doing that, again, not only are you wasting time, but it's gonna finally catch up to you. There are going to be consequences. You will reap what you have sown, which is where he ends again in verse 11 with this warning. A very practical, I love it. It's a very picturesque, illustrative warning. He says in verse 11, then poverty will pounce on you. And I love the pounce. It's just gonna overtake you like a bandit. Scarcity, speaking of need, will attack you like an armed robber. Solomon warns again, if you continue on this lazy path, if you keep procrastinating and don't do what you're supposed to be doing, one of these days, You're going to wake up and it's going to be too late. There won't be time to gather. There won't be time to work. It's going to be raining or snowing or pouring or whatever will be taking place, and it will be too late. What you should have done, that time is gone. That time is past. And now you wake up one day, you haven't prepared, there's no food left for you, and now you're in for a big surprise. And he said, this is so dangerous, right? He says it's so dangerous. He says it is like, and he uses this illustration, like a bandit, right? That pounces on you. Notice he says, like an attack from an armed robber. Now, what he's talking about is a picture of a thief who breaks into your house when you're asleep. You don't even know what's happening. You wake up and all of a sudden you're being robbed. You are caught off guard. You are surprised. And he says, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to be caught off guard. You're going to be surprised. You're going to wake up one day, there's going to be no food in your cupboard because you didn't work and you didn't earn any money to buy food. And now what? Now what are you going to do? You are unprepared, just like that homeowner who was sleeping when he wasn't watching and guarding his house, and now you're unprepared. And this thief pounces on you. This hunger, this scarcity pounces on you, and you're helpless because you've been caught off guard. You are now in for a surprise. Again, that can actually kill you. Now, again, because of this danger of sleeping, Solomon has talked about sleep a lot. He talked about it again here, but he also talked about it, to give you a couple verses, in Proverbs 20:13. Solomon says, do not love sleep. And that's an important one because, again, too many people really enjoy sleeping. But he says, do not love sleep, lest you come to poverty. Again, he gave this warning, in this verse as well. Another one, Proverbs 19:15. Laziness casts one into a deep sleep, and an idle person will suffer hunger. Solomon tells us, again, there's consequences. Look, let me be clear. And he deals with this several times over and over and over again so that we make sure, so that the reader, so that I believe, Solomon's children, again, would understand. Hey, there's nothing wrong with sleep. Take it when you need it and enjoy it while you can, but don't do that at the expense of doing what you need to be doing, what you should be doing, right? Understand that God has created us to work. Work is a good thing. Again, it's not an effect of the curse. And so we need to get out there, right? As soon as we can, get busy, making good use of our time, avoiding laziness, and getting to work, right? Being diligent. Don't wait for someone to tell you, hey, honey, you need to get to work. But do it. Take the initiative. Do what you got to do. I'm sure you guys have heard the old saying, right? The early bird gets the worm. I'm sure we've heard that before. The idea is don't wait till the worms are all gone. Get out there, right? Do it. Someone, if you don't get out there and do it again, someone else will. And eventually all those worms are going to be gone and you are going to be left hungry. Now, one of the things I'll close with is the idea, and especially for Christians, as for the most part, I'm always teaching Christians, one of the dangers that Christians make is to say, well, how about I just trust in God? And that people say that all the time. Well, yeah, I'm trusting in the Lord. And it sounds so holy. It sounds so, wow, it sounds so, you're so spiritual when people say stuff like that. Now, of course, we need to trust in the Lord. No doubt about it. But at the same time, God has called us, again, to work. God has provided us a brain, right? God has provided us hands and feet. Yes, God, promises to provide all of our needs. Excuse me. But it doesn't mean he expects us to be lazy so that he has to do everything and we don't do anything. God, again, is a good and faithful God. He's a loving God, but he has given us, all of us, especially you young people, you have all the energy in the world to do it, pretty much anything you want. And so use that energy for good things. You know what I mean? If you're able, get out there, get a little side job. I mean, again, do whatever you can. Of course, make sure it's what's best for you and doesn't interfere with your schooling and all that kind of stuff. Have your priorities. But if you're able, again, to start putting money away, again, it's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with these things. I wish that I would have had someone earlier in my life direct me and encourage me to do things and make better choices, specifically about saving money and investing money. I'm all for that type of thing, because again, the earlier you begin to do these things, the better off you'll be down the road. And so, good wisdom from Solomon, and again, just a good reminder of the importance of hard work. So that's what I got for you guys today. If you guys have any questions, I'm open. Any thoughts? Anybody? Jonathan, Jerry, Seth, anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's good?
Mm-hmm. That was really good. Well said.
Oh, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me. I when I was originally invited by Jonathan, I was hoping to meet you guys face to face, and I would enjoy so much more, not over the computer, but whatever, we do the best we can. Right now I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing at your churches. We're all having to live stream our videos and our sermons, and it's hard, but you know what, we trust in God, and the main thing is that the word gets out, and God's still speaking. And so that's what's happening. And so I appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you so much
Thank you, Pastor.
That's good.
It was a great message.
Awesome. Well, the Lord bless you guys, man. Continue to do what you're doing. And I have no idea what's up with the school year. And my daughter, I have two daughters. One's at Fullerton